Most empires believed their money was safe. Every government said, "Our promises will last." And almost all of them were wrong. For centuries, people have lived through the same story. In Rome, in France, during the American Civil War, in Lebanon. They woke up one morning and realized their savings no longer had a purpose. Their salaries were no longer enough. Their futures were shattered along with the systems they thought were solid. Collapse isn't an exception. In history, it looks more like the rule. The real issue isn't whether systems will collapse. It's what position you'll be in when they do. Most of us look at our bank accounts and feel relieved. We think our money is just sitting there. But money isn't as solid as we imagine. It's an agreement, a matter of trust, and trust can disappear overnight. That's why history matters. Because even though it's brutal, it's honest. Every collapse clearly shows who stays standing and who loses everything. If you pay attention, you notice something. The ones who survive aren't the ones who trust the most. They're the ones who question first. Think about Byzantium. For centuries, they had a gold coin called the solidus. It was so trusted that merchants accepted it everywhere. It was like the dollar of its time. But they were human too. Over time, they began lowering the purity of the coin. At first, no one noticed. Later, they did. And once trust broke, it never came back. After that point, it wasn't paper or promises that survived, real gold and land did. Those who quietly held onto them moved forward in life. Everyone else was left watching helplessly. Of course, not every collapse happens this way. Sometimes completely unexpected events strike, like the Black Death. Nearly half of Europe's population was wiped out. It was a horrifying disaster, but for those who survived, life changed completely. People became scarce and labor became valuable. Wages rose. Land became cheap. Those with money, power, or a useful skill gained access to things they never thought they could own. We actually saw this not long ago ourselves. During COVID, some people were forced to sell their assets while others were buying. Crises are ruthless. They lift the prepared to the top and push the unprepared to the bottom. When banks collapsed in Florence, people learned something important. Being big does not mean being safe. Even reputation won't save you. The money printed during the American Civil War, the assignats of the French Revolution, they all ended the same way. Money existed, but it had no value. Value always fled to real things: land, food, gold. During the Asian financial crisis in Lebanon in 2008, nothing was different. Banks closed. You couldn't access your money. What belonged to you suddenly stopped being yours. This truth is hard to accept but necessary. The money in your bank isn't sitting in your own vault. It's entrusted to an institution. And in a crisis, you might not get it back. So, what do? History doesn't give us a single clear answer, but it does point in a direction. Sometimes gold, sometimes cash, sometimes staying away from debt, sometimes simply being skilled. Because one thing never changes, money can lose its meaning, but production never does. People will always need food, repairs, and labor. The people who truly survived throughout history weren't just the rich ones. They were the ones who were useful. Every crisis is a transfer, from trust to preparation, from paper to reality. And the question is this: when everything is at risk, what will you be holding? If this perspective makes sense to you, stay here. Because history has shown hundreds of times what actually works, and I'll show you where to look.